The lion banner sways and falls in the horror-haunted gloom. A scarlet dragon rustles by, borne on winds of doom. In heaps the shining horsemen lie, where the thrusting lances break, and deep in the haunted mountains, the lost black gods awake. Dead hands grope in the shadows, the stars turn pale with fright, for this is the dragon's hour, the triumph of fear and night.
Yep.
Hello
Yep.
and welcome all.
Yep.
Very much the same, good sir.
And yep, Conan had been knocked out. Publio properly intimidated by the Katani. I'm going to call them ninjas. I don't know what other term to use. Yeah. And the first thing Conan takes notice of is that he's pretty much he's in motion. Like he's not exactly on steady ground anymore. But what Howard does is very interesting because uh, previously he was knocked out and left pretty much in water, and this could lead, like he doesn't immediately say he's on a boat. He takes a moment to, over the course of the paragraph, introduce the fact that Conan's on a ship, which that he kind of almost misleads us towards thinking it's the Stygian ship, but then it turns out it's not. The Stygian ship's already taken off. And that's where Howard is very clever, and he does his Howard tends to do something that Tolkien also did, and I don't see many writers doing it today, except for, ironically, from what I've seen of the few Conan pastiche novels I've seen, it's that they don't just dive right in all the time. Sometimes they just slowly weave your way to the action and then drop you into it. It takes several paragraphs to introduce the situation Conan's in, and by then we kind of realize just how deep in dog doo doo he's in. And yeah, sorry for rambling there a little. It's just I really like the intro to this chapter. Just I like to be kind of slowly introduced to the mood and the setting.
Yeah, definitely. This is a great chapter. I loved all these three.
I love
Uh,
this.
I just wanted to throw one um, riddle out of this chapter, see if you guys can find it. But there's a piece of dialogue in this chapter that reminds very much of a particular line in Conan the Barbarian, the movie from 1981. And I want to see if you guys can figure it out. But
82.
that can happen later on. Well, I'm just saying, keep a lookout.
Okie doke.
There's an interesting dialogue here that was like, wait, did they take inspiration from this to the movie?
I just love how
Or was it?
much more knowledgeable about Conan you are than I am.
No,
No.
I just it just no.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds good. No, I was just it just jumped out at me, so I was like, I'm interested to see if you guys can find it while we go
Now,
through this.
yeah, and in the introduction paragraphs, we're introduced to the fact that most of the slaves are Cushites, and this is going to play a large role thematically and overall later in this chapter. And Conan is rather upset, to say the least, to discover that he's in the position of a slave here, and he's a little confused, asking how did he get aboard the ship. No, no, but
Yeah,
the ship name is called the Venturer, which to venture is to be go outside your little
gather your
abode.
party before venturing forth.
Yeah, and the captain's name is Demetrio, which sounds a lot like Demetrius from Greek history, who was a one of the successors of Alexander, who started off one of the most gloriously, and then ended up being the most ignominious of all the successors. And his own successors be would have a little more far-ranging success, from what I understand it, than him. But Demetrius is one of the most fascinating historic figures of Greek history.
This is a.
I-
Sorry, I was just gonna say the way he ended up on this ship is kind of funny.
yeah,
Seems kind of the way it went back in ancient days. Like if you were found lying somewhere
yeah,
unconscious or something, it was like, oh, let's take you. Like from the Gladiator movie, for example. Oh, let's take you as a slave. It's
yeah,
like nobody wants you. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
fair
exactly.
game.
It was just, yeah, it happens nowadays as well. It's just,
You're
it
fair
was just
game.
reminded me just like how easily.
Now, the Venturer, though, is transporting a cargo of mirrors, scarlet silk cloaks, shields, gilded helmets, and swords to trade to the Shemites for copper and gold ore, which, mm, so it's got plenty of cargo. And what goes unsaid is that they also have plenty of slaves on board. If ever, yep, yep, mm, yep,
Oh yeah,
yeah. And what's interesting is that where, for example, Tolkien struggled a little at the beginning of Lord of the Rings, for example, to find his footing. The first few chapters are pretty meandering and a little unsure, and then once he finds his footing, he gets going like an arrow. Howard, from the very beginning of Hour of the Dragon, knew where he was going. Like he had a good, clear idea, like you said. And
yeah,
yep,
yeah. Like we said, this is like the best hits of Howard.
mm,
It's like it's hitting
yeah,
everything basically, and just writing a great story
yep.
around every hit, basically.
I think that's how Mike
Um,
Bond, the magnificent booktuber, tends to describe this book. It's Conan's best hits. Um, yep.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny. Like when what ship is this? The Venturer. Then he's like, uh, then he finds out like where they're going, and he said, "Then I'm headed in the right direction. I want to go after all." He just like he's so over everything. He doesn't care. And then he just continues asking, "Have you sighted us to Jin Galley?" And the captain is like, "Won't you shut up?" Like,
I just like how he
It's,
just
it's,
almost takes
it's,
command immediately. He's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah, yeah,
I'm in charge.
yeah.
All right, so what you're gonna want to do is any other captain.
Yeah,
Now,
that's what I mean. Like he's so used to 20, 30, how many years of command. It's like he's who he is. It's like okay, let's go. Let's- yeah, exactly.
yeah, he's a penniless wanderer right now.
Yeah,
And
but yeah, he's not behaving.
this is actually one of
Yeah,
the funniest chapters in some ways. And I think that this part of the chapter, Howard was having a lot of fun here. It was just kind of like he's just having a blast here. And I found out recently he apparently the main publisher he wanted to publish this book through was over in England, and I actually think that the English would have eaten this comedy up.
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. Yeah, that we find.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like ouch. Yeah,
Well,
uh, it didn't take long. But that's what I
uh,
mean. Like there's a clear like power level here. Like Conan knows who he is. He has so much experience. He I think he can size up the situation immediately, like it does, like it says when we just go a bit forwards in the chapter. He looks over and sees the axe and all that stuff, and he knows that he can take this easily. So he has a lot of confidence because he knows who
I
he
like
is.
I,
Yeah.
I like how he says. I like how he says. I love the volcanic temper. Never long at best. Burst into explosion. And then he says, "Don't lift your voice to me, you tar-breeched dog. Draw that toy, and I'll feed you to the fishes." And you have the captain. "Who do you think you are?" "I'll show you," roared the maddened Cimmerian. And he gets so peeved off when they basically tell him you're a slave now and we'll flog you like one. That this is what results, and he just goes, he
But
just loses it.
I wasn't expecting the yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
But I didn't expect him to yank his whole whole arm out from the socket. That was yeah.
Yeah, obviously he did. The
Yeah.
the but yeah, like with Conan, I think it's really this chapter that Howard does goes a long way to showing in a way he's the spirit of liberty. What I mean, like, he has no toleration for uh
Right.
slavery, like you said, Zero. And
Mm, yeah.
mm,
Yeah. I think this yeah, it goes all the way back to the Sumerians and their tribe and who
mm,
Conan is. He the honor system like that's why I think Howard really chose because the Sumerian because he himself felt akin more to the Sumerian. So
mm,
when he's in civilization and he sees all the how other people disrespect other people to their faces and how they just you know take it and how they like speak very much not the way you would Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what's written. That's what's written here on this. Yeah, exactly that. But
What I
yeah, it,
yeah, what
it's just like the decency, like like he has a way you treat like human beings in an equal setting, like everyone, whether it be a king or a slave or whoever. So mm,
yeah,
yeah,
it's really that Conan treats everyone as the ends rather than the means. It's a world of ends where you treat
mm,
everyone as the ultimate goal and the ends, not the means. And yeah, exactly. Wealth, power, kingdoms, they're a means to the ends, which is to say the people. And this is really how the I don't want to say the moral system, but Conan's ethics kind of work. And exactly. It,
and and
it's the whole
and he also
philosophy of the social
I was
contract with the consent of the people. The social
mm,
contract of the 18th century, where the monarch rules with the permission of the people, and the people are reigned over, so to speak, with their consent by the monarch, so that it's a partnership. But if the king breaks it, like say Le Roi Français, uh, then the
yeah.
people have the legal obligation to overthrow and kill
Yeah, I think also Conan has seen so much corruption, so much
him.
usury in the so-called civilized world in his travels, and he's like, okay, I do not want to do that way, anything in that way, because he's seen the squalor and everything evil that
Yeah.
it has brung. So, mm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's true.
And there's something rather almost Freudian to an extent about what happens next, just in regards to what Howard writes here, and I'll get to that in a minute. But the main action here is Conan, once he's on the bridge and looks down at the faces of all the slaves, he recognizes a great many of them and yells out to them, in particular, Ajonga, Yasunga, and Laranga, and demands of them, "Who am I?" And from the woods rose a shout that swelled to I'm reading here, to a mighty roar. Amra! It is Amra! The lion has returned. Amra in the Exile of Atlantis story was the best friend of Kull, who helped save him. But here the name has been reused for Conan as one of his name. Amra the lion.
Yeah, the Black Corsairs.
Oh, I assumed that
Yeah,
they were the crew he had after she died. No, I meant like he had a crew afterwards. But okay.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
There's also
Mm.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I, I just
He
figured
also used there's also a lot of Marvel stories that take place in the Black Kingdoms. Of course, these are not official, but there he calls himself Amra as well,
that's
from
what I
what I
figured. It was
remember.
from that kind of era. Yeah, I wasn't sure if like I didn't think it was during the Bailet period because I figured that her entire crew was massacred. So it must have been a different crew
Of
from the
course, these
Black
are not
Kingdoms
official, but
from his time
there he
there.
calls himself
That's what
Amra
I had
as
figured
well.
about the Amra um, crew. So
The the stream is not
like I
muted for
didn't
me
think it
at
was
least,
during the
but
Bailet period because I figured that her entire crew was massacred. So it must have been a different crew.
I don't know about you. Yeah, same.
Wait, is there problems with the stream?
Someone commented. It wasn't for me, at least.
Let me see. Just my computer is very slow. I'll just give me 1 sec. I'll mute myself so I could.
No, it's not muted for me.
Working fine on my end, which
Yeah.
is pretty weird because my computer's. Anyways, actually, I'll just close up. Oh, they can't hear.
Oh,
Well,
I
Can
can
anybody
hear
hear
you.
me?
yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
That's weird. Well, yeah, like I said, I figured that this was a different crew from the Beylik crew because the Beylik crew was massacred, and that it had to be from when Conan was in the Black Kingdoms, and that came shortly after the Beylik period. That's what I had figured, but because most of his crew that he had with Beylik were
Wait a second. Wait a second. You are muted.
Oh.
Oh, zero. You are muted.
Okay.
on
Testing,
YouTube.
testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Can anybody hear me?
Not for me here on Discord, but on YouTube it was.
Okay.
muted.
Well, let's see if they can hear me on the other end now.
Let's go.
Gotta love those technical issues.
Not for me here on Discord, but on YouTube.
Okay, you can hear me
Well,
now?
let's see if they can hear me.
Okay, there, I can hear myself.
I can.
All
Yeah,
right.
I can hear you now.
Yes, indeed, everything is now Gucci. Thank you, Mr. Villeneuve, for aiding us in this particular endeavor. Your place in Valhalla has
Yes.
been reserved for you in the eventual time of your death, if necessary, or prior to that, if you just want to visit. So,
Yeah, well, not to argue too much. Like I said, I just figured Conan's Black Kingdom days and after Beylik was where some of his crew members come from, because the Beylik crew dies.
yeah, exactly. Well, it is mentioned that sometimes, there will be some rotation between them. So, over that 2-year period, there's definitely been some of these people who know Conan from those days and are really happy to have him back right about now.
There might be more prestigious regarding that. One I know of, but I think that was with the Red Brotherhood. Conan sails with Valeria.
Yeah, that one was
So,
definitely Red Brotherhood.
Yeah, that's Red Brotherhood. But
Yeah.
but I mean, is there might be some prestige with the Black Corps. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, I think he's gone with. I think Conan's actually sailed with pretty much all the pirates. He's gone with the Zingarans. He's done with the Red Brotherhood. He's done with the Black Corsairs. I mean, he's pretty much gone with all the major, the Barracan pirates. I mean, he's gone with pretty much every single major group of seaborne ruffians there are.
Yeah, that's true.
And even some on the Vilayet Sea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where the prestige.
Yeah, I think that's the Red
protection
Brotherhood's
is.
area of expertise.
Right.
Well,
So
the pirates soon go a little mad as they become hungry for freedom, it seems.
Yeah, death
And
to the
even though-
masters is one of the frequent chants.
And some of the blacks who don't know, some of the Kushites who don't know Conan also take up the yell of Amra, which is
his legend has spread.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's cool.
Well, that's one thing that's, representative, that's really representative of this scene is exactly just how well-known Conan is at this point in his career. He's been, reaving and raiding across the entire Hyborian world for he's probably nearing his 40s at this point. So at least 20 years of just constant combat and mercenary work and piracy and banditry, all sorts of stuff. And he's left an impression.
Yeah,
And I think why the-
44.
And I think why the Kushites, especially like Amra, is because Stygia is no friend to anyone, especially
God, no.
to Kushites taking slaves. So Amra has for many years was basically destroying Stygian seaports and wreaking absolute havoc among the Stygians. So, I mean, his legend would be like everyone loves him just for the just for the idea of Amra. Like even if he was
Yeah.
a myth, like just for the idea that he strikes fear into the Stygians, basically.
Nobody likes the snake guys.
You know,
No, I hate snakes.
but
Well,
where I think there's a element of Freudianness here is that I think that Conan being a liberator for these slaves who are black, one thing that crossed my mind about that was I think this is one of the few moments where Howard has a bit of a power fantasy of how he would have liked to do this sort of thing when, during the era of slavery of the U.S.
Mhm. Well, that
And-
isn't the first time he's done that. In the God in the Bowl story, the whole thing where a group of inspectors and police officers are harassing a guy over a crime he didn't commit was actually, according
Right.
to his letters, inspired by an actual event where a black guy from the South back in the 30s was actually eventually killed in the
Yeah.
altercation with these three cops. And he was like, "Yeah, let's even
Yeah, yeah.
try it with this guy." And that was very much
yeah, I
this-
remember that.
Yeah. So that very much is the kind of thing where, yeah, definitely Conan has his self-insert, fantasy kind of moments in certain parts of stories. You can kind of see that. But I think also
Here.
it's very much his particular reaction to that. I don't think Howard was very much a fan of slavery and everything I've been able to see of his stuff. He was very much a individual freedom above everything.
That's what I meant. He, from what I can read of this text, in the psychological sphere, he was clearly kind of writing what he thinks should be done to slavers and for the enslaved.
Yeah. We see a lot of that too in the Solomon Kane stories when Kane goes to Africa and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
There's
Yeah,
an
I think
I think
entire
it also. Sorry, no, go ahead.
no. Well, there's an entire bit in let's see which story, The
Right.
Footfalls
Got it.
Within, where he just goes completely berserk on a group of slavers that are just wandering by. He just can't help
Which
himself.
story?
Footfalls Within. That's the one with that weird. It's the one that explains where the staff comes from.
Oh right. Yeah. What's it called?
The Footfalls Within.
I haven't read it.
The name doesn't, but the story is
That's a
ringing
good
bell,
one.
But the title for some reason doesn't register. But I think it also plays into the slaver and that thing to the overall theme of Howard's the barbarian against the civilized. See, the civilized want to enslave, so he sees like the system of the civilizations where they're so corrupt, they enslave people into their corrupt systems. So it kind of like plays out in another way here as well.
Yeah, that is another aspect of it.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
the
Like-
barbarians, the more noble barbarians against the more savage civilized people. Even though in history, tribes often had slaves from other conquered tribes
Yep.
or in
how-
skirmishes. Whom,
And Howard doesn't shy away from that side of things all the time. You see how the Picts sometimes behave in this era. And but that said, arguably the Sumerians are almost noble savages.
Yeah.
If
Well,
they're
I think that's
bloodthirsty.
always been something about Howard's take on barbarism. He's not shy about showing the downsides to it, or at least the darker aspects of it
yeah.
as well. But he's also showing some of the positives too. It's like very much you look at like the Picts during this particular era of the Hyborian Age versus the Picts before that, and we'll see later on with Bran MacMorn. They are very much the equivalent of the Stygians when it comes to the more savage peoples of the era, in the sense like dark gods, really nasty religious practices, and kill crazy kind of attitude towards everybody else. Not exactly the nicest of people.
And you have
yeah,
the best line of this part of the story is "Deaf to the masters."
which
that
is
was
Conan who says that.
Yeah, Conan, who calls for the Kushites to rise up and slaughter the crew.
Yeah, and with punctuated by him hitting the shackle chain with his axe and just chopping through the metal and just releasing them all to wreak untold havoc upon their former owners.
Yep.
Yeah, literally,
Screaming
it says,
black
next page, then it was massacre. And it goes into a
Yeah.
full paragraph of just, oof.
What this chapter is also doing is puncturing massive holes in the Howard was racist nonsense.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a lot of going around nowadays about everyone and everywhere. Yeah, I think this is a very well written. The whole breaking free.
Okay, it's
breaking
Howard.
free
You gotta
and
World of
rising
Conan
up.
take you to task. Stop saying it's well written. We know that it's Howard.
No, I just meant this part with Britain basically.
Yeah,
It's
the
Howard,
master,
so it's always well written, but some parts are more well written than others.
Oh,
Yeah, maybe other places just jump out.
yeah, they do.
In a way.
In that, I love the line. In that moment, he was not king of Aquilonia. He was again lord of the Black Corsairs, who had hacked his way to lordship through flame and blood.
Yeah, and they immediately start going in on the idea, like, now will the Stygians howl like dogs in the night, and the black dog Kush will howl. Now will villages burst in flames and ships flounder. Aye, there will be wailing of women and the thunder of the spears. And he's just like, seize this yammering dogs. We got stuff to do, guys. I mean, come on. First off, let's get this boat in order. I got places to go, guys. I could use your help.
Yeah, the
Yeah, he's
lion
on a
has
mission.
returned. The lion has returned, as they put it.
Yeah.
I like how he tells them. I just like how they're basically, well, almost just. I don't want to say worshiping, but they're just, they're falling over themselves to thank him.
Yeah.
And 10 of you go below and free the oarsmen who are yet chained. The rest of you, man the sweeps and bend to oars and halyards. Brahm's devils, don't you see we've drifted inshore during the fight? Do you want to run aground and be retaken by the Argosians? Throw these carcasses overboard. Jump to it, you rogues, or I'll notch your hides for you. And their response is only with shouts and laughter and wild singing. They leaped to do his commands. Their corpses, white and black, were hurled overboard, where triangular fins were already cutting the water.
Yeah, well, whenever there's
sharks.
like a battle at sea, there's going to be sharks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they're also...
Yeah, you can also
also-
see Conan taking care of his crew, like the food.
hmm
And then
making sure they're well
clean-
armed from the cargo that was in the ship already.
Yeah, and then he says just clean this place. Free men don't labor in such filth. Like I think
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. You rode in chains for the Argosian dogs. Will you now row as free men for Amra? And they're all very happy to do so.
Aye, they roared. We are thy children. Lead us where you will. That shows the kind of relationship they have with him. They regard him as a kind of father figure.
yeah, mythical figure already. Like
And
you see, there's a nice picture of it.
oh yeah, and you have in
Nice.
turn Conan, who seems to dote on them and love them as though they're his children. He
Yeah.
certainly, he was certainly in. I think the greater part of his rage in the second part of this battle comes from seeing his former crew members enslaved like that. He definitely cares for them.
Yeah, that is interesting that he comes upon some former shipmates.
hmm
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
is cool.
Which is lucky for him, because, it's quite possible that if there hadn't been, they probably wouldn't have reacted quite as, violently to just this random, buff white dude just showing up. It's like, who am I? Who am I? Who the fuck are you?
It's like- yeah.
Versus having some people who
Whoever
actually
you
know
say
can
you
really,
are.
yeah. Versus having some former people who knew him and fought with him, who could like, holy shit, it's Amra. Okay, we're gonna go apeshit on these people.
Yeah, that's a good point actually. It's like, oh, it's Amra of legend. Like it's like, oh, everything's gonna be good now. Everything's gonna be okay now because
Yeah.
so much power in the name basically already. Like he's
Former Lord is
gone
back.
through.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
he's
the
gone through
the
so
chapter
much.
ends with this line here: "King of Aquilonia, he no longer be king of the blue ocean, he was still. It's like
exactly.
he may not
Well,
have
that-
Like,
been
no one-
he may not have been sailing for quite some time since those days in this part of the world. They know him
Yeah.
still.
Yeah, exactly. No one can take away that name.
Mhm.
Like no one can take away that. Like it will always be the name
His.
will. Yeah, it will instill like respect,
Yeah.
love, and basically that he will bring victory. He's victorious.
Yeah, and it brings
So
back
that's
the whole
that.
concept of Conan going back to basics, as he's lost his kingdom, he's lost his gear, he's no longer has his horse, had no weapons at the time. He's back to basics, and all he has left is what is intrinsic to him, and that is his strength, his speed, his cunning, and his
Right.
charisma, his reputation that he's built up over all these years that cannot be taken away from him.
It's also kind of like this whole story. So I was just gonna say, I think this story is kind of like he's gathering himself up, taking all the things in the past that brought him to this to the kingship and he's bringing them back, like, and strengthening himself again, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to kind of remark. And that all of his old friendships from even 20 years back almost, he's gathering them and he's reconnecting with all of his older friends, his crew members, those he's met, his enemies, his non-enemies, and this is all coming to shape the journey, so to speak. And him, once again, it's like it shaped him years before.
Yeah.
Then we get to chapter 16.
Yeah.
Well, before
Yeah.
we go to chapter 16, the trivia question: can you guys find what the line was, or the two lines that resemble a movie line from the classic Conan movie?
Cease this yammering, dogs.
Nope.
Nope.
Oh, it has to have something to do with dogs.
Nope.
I'm joking. I don't know.
It has to do with Thulsa Doom. It's a line by Thulsa Doom.
Mm.
If that gives you any help.
I'm not good at trivia.
Something to do with.
It's on the.
Now they will, as lakes of blood and such as that. That line.
Oh, you mean this? Now will the Stygians howl
Yeah.
like dogs? You are absolutely correct, because that reminded me completely of Thulsa Doom saying, "Now they will know why they are afraid of the dark. Now they will learn why they fear the night." So this is basically quite the similar. Like, now
It's
will the
similar.
Stygians howl like dogs in the night, and black dogs will blah 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 blah. Now will the villages burst in flames and ships founder. It's kind of similar. I don't know.
It's
It
got the
just
same energy a bit. Although I think in
I
this
think it
case
has.
it's a little bit less like.
yeah,
energy to it there.
that's true.
Gloria's
Oh,
going to be
yeah.
out again. Goodbye,
just-
slavery. Hello, glory.
Oh, it's just a great line. That's one of my favorite lines from the movie as well.
Yeah, it
It's,
is. The best.
It's,
Well, James
it's
Earl
so-
Jones. Every line is perfect when it comes out of his
Yeah,
mouth.
that's true.
The guy knew what he was doing. And here now, coming to chapter 16, we encounter takes us to Stygia, the first time we actually enter that country in the entirety of the Conan official.
Yep.
A bit of a watermark at this
And-
point. Just
Black Walled
that,
Chemi.
we've heard Stygia mentioned, but this is the first we're actually going to be going there.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's
And
true. Yeah.
what's also, like, this is a smaller detail, Conan's flying a purple sail, and
Mm,
purple being the color of royalty. So
yeah.
kind of flying his colors here.
Yeah, a
He's
little
not
bit.
exactly, like, thematically, he's not hiding what he is. That's on a thematic level and in color psychology right there.
Mm-hmm.
And if anyone says it doesn't matter, I think Howard, every letter, every word is chosen with care. So I think it does matter.
Mm.
Yeah. And of course, he's turned this merchant trader into a war galley as best he can with all
Yeah.
the gear and stuff. It's like,
Yeah.
Definitely not
They-
a ship to be approached by anybody who say wants to save their skins.
Even
think it's
Blackbeard would turn away.
Interesting way to start the chapter is the venture swept southward like a living thing. Her oars pulled now by free and willing hands, like in a sense that it was a ship of death before, and now it's one of freedom and life. You know,
Very good eye there. Yeah, I noticed that. And it's interesting, she had been transformed from a peaceful trader into a war galley insofar as the transformation was possible. Men set up benches now with swords at their sides and gilded helmets on their kinky heads.
that's for kinky heads.
Along the rails, and sheafs of spears, bows, and arrows adorned the mast. That's yeah, you don't want to mess with these guys.
Nope.
And it's funny because the Kushites are wanting to turn the ship northwards and go plundering and whatnot. But Conan's not exactly, he's not here for pleasure. He's here for business.
Yeah, he's got a Stygian ship to catch up with.
Yeah, it's a really life, world mission basically to save the world. So he has it kind of takes priority to get the heart of Ahriman.
If it wasn't for that, he'd just go have fun.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Not that his crew is that interested in it, of course. They anticipate a red career of pillage and plunder and were content. The men of the southern isles knew no other trade, and the Kushites of the crew joined wholeheartedly in the prospect of looting their own people with the callousness of their race. Blood ties meant little. A victorious chieftain and a personal gain, everything. So they are all, gung-ho and ready to go to town on anybody to get their share of the loot at this point. They're just like, woo, let's do this. This is going to be fun. But of course, Conan has other things in mind at the moment.
Well, yeah, he's got to get the heart of Ahriman and save Zenobia. He's not here for to give the kingdom of Stygia, Fafamon's kingdom, a really bad day. He's here to get the job done.
And he also he didn't really know if a priest of Set took it, but he assumed, and he assumed correctly. And then he assumed, obviously, that he would bring it to Stygia as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a good thinking there. But I think it's
and Kemi is where he ends up near, and it's the largest of Stygia's ports.
Yeah, and the only one that's really open to outsiders. They can actually do some trade, although access is limited at that point. And we get this over the next couple of paragraphs, we get a nice little kind of montage of, different peoples. He starts, going past the lands of Shem and past, the streams and that until he gets to the entrance to the river Styx, the real border of Stygia.
We see that Kemi is reigned by the priests, and the king seems to be reigning in Luxor or further down, further in the middle.
The part of confirming Stygia pretty much that Stygia is basically, not Egypt.
Yeah, and Kemi is basically Alexandria, with Luxor basically being Memphis. And the Egyptian connotations are impossible to ignore. Well,
the cigarettes.
Snake Egypt.
Yeah, impossible to ignore and quite deliberate. I mean, the whole reason you use these ancient cultures as your baseline is so that you already have that pre-built visual in your imagination, so you don't have to go into too much detail. The reader already has the building blocks necessary to fill in the gaps between your prose to actually see what you're describing really well.
Exactly. And we got also on a great paragraph about the Stygians. The Stygians were an ancient race, a dark inscrutable people, powerful and merciless. Long ago, their rule had stretched far north of the Styx, beyond the meadowlands of Shem, and into the fertile uplands now inhabited by the peoples of Koth and Ophir and Argos. Their borders had matched with those of ancient Acheron, but Acheron had fallen, and the barbaric ancestors of the Hyborians had swept southwards in wolf skins and horned helmets. driving the ancient rulers of the land before them. The Stygians had not forgotten.
No.
Yeah, this comes out in the Hyborian Age article that Howard wrote.
Yep.
So everything in this, and also that the Acheron and Stygia were essentially at first, before they split, they were of the same people.
Yeah.
And one went southward and another went upward, northward.
And of course, Stygia is an exceptionally ancient kingdom. It goes back all those years to, that far past before the foundation of the Hyborian kingdoms and everything. It's a place of ancient shadows and dark secrets that go back to, pre-human kind of ancestry in certain places.
Yeah. And of course, the separation of a northern and southern empire is also brings to mind the East and Western Empire of the Romans.
Yes.
With one eventually becoming the Greek Empire in the East, and the other a multitude of Western cultures and nations.
Yeah, and in this case, the Stygians would be the Byzantines in that regard.
Yep, and the Northerners are basically the Western civilizations of
which leads
Europe.
one to believe that Acheron probably had a lot in common with Stygia in terms of its overall culture and disposition. It's just at the height of its power, way, way, way nastier even than what the Stygia is capable of these days.
Yeah.
Stygia is fairly insular as far as its impact on the rest of the world go. You have individual sorcerers like Thothamon who pops out at one point or another. And, he's about the only major Stygian. There's a couple of other ones that pop out as well, but they don't necessarily represent their country in any way. They're off doing mercenary work or doing stuff like that. Like there's a Stygian prince in Black Colossus who's doing some fighting in some other places. But mostly Stygia is very much like almost a hermit kingdom in many ways. It keeps to itself. Its tendrils reach out at times to, swim around with everybody nearby. But for the most part, Stygia is on its own, separate from everybody else, because nobody actually wants to mess with them at all, because they're quite aware of what they can unleash if they decide to get pissed off.
Yeah.
Except
I also think it's I think it's also because Stygia doesn't have the capability to conquer anymore. In ancient days they had, but they don't have any. Like they can't build like big armies. They don't have strong kings. It's ruled by sorcery and the priests.
Yep.
But they can summon that, but they don't have like huge conquering armies. They can just take over a lot of the neighboring countries. Not anymore. That's just how I see it. Like so they keep to themselves with their, and nobody wants to mess with the sorcery.
Yeah,
so
and which makes sense.
The only one who wants to mess with them is
like Egypt.
He's not afraid to mess with them. Who wants to mess with them is Conan.
Yeah, pretty much at this point. They certainly haven't forgotten.
Yeah, out of necessity. Out of necessity, but I mean, Conan doesn't himself like, let's go to Stygia. It's like he doesn't really.
He did end up carving a pretty red path along their shores at one time.
But I just meant like to.
Oh yeah, he doesn't just go there to vacation.
Yeah, he doesn't really go there. Because as we see in the next chapters and this today, Stygia really hates outsiders. So when you're stepping foot and you're white, basically, and they're like, who are you? Let's kill you. It's
being ruled by a, extremely dangerous, extremely unpleasant theocracy will do that. Especially one that worships what everybody else considers an archdemon, so...
They would be like, thank you, Seth. You brought a sacrifice to us.
Literally, as we'll see later on.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Let's pick you off the road.
Which is what the Argosians kind of were willing to do. Pick someone off the side of the sea and just...
Yeah, they weren't going to feed him to a snake.
No, they're more civilized than that.
Yeah, well... So yeah, Conan then grabbed some random fisherman off the water there to ask him some questions about things. He's like, "Stand on your legs, man! Quit trembling." It's just like he has to actually just reinforce, like, "Okay, you're not gonna die. I just need some info on this one guy who showed up in a boat a couple of days ago."
Yes. Priest
Yeah.
Thuthomes. How would you say that name? Priest
Thuthomis.
Thuthomes. Yeah.
Thuthomis.
Yeah,
Thuthomis.
that's it.
Because I read it first like Thuthomes, but it's
Thuddy.
not.
His name is Thuddy.
Thuddy the Priest.
I'll just call him Freddy.
Mr.
Freddy
T.
the Priest.
We're just gonna call him Mr. T from now on.
Okay, cool.
Freddy the Priest.
Yeah, we only arrived yesterday at dawn, so they're catching up to him. That's for damn sure.
Oh yeah, I know Freddy. He's
Yeah. And of course,
from down
the
there.
fisherman doesn't really know much. He just says, "Who am I to know the minds of the priests of Set? I only speak what I have seen and what I have heard men whisper among the wharves. Men say that news of great import came southward, though of what none knows. And it was well known that the Lord Thuthomes put off in his black galley in great haste. Now he's returned, but what he did in Argos and what cargo he brought back none knows. Not even the seaman who manned his galley. Men say that he has opposed Thothamon, who is the master of all priests of Set and dwells in Luxor, and that Thuthomes seeks hidden power to overthrow the Great One. But who am I to say? Apparently he is one to say a lot, because that's a hell of an info dump.
Yeah. He does know something at least.
Yeah, when priests war with one another, a common man can but lie on his belly and hope neither treads upon him.
Conan's snarly, nervous exasperation at this servile philosophy turned to his men.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, Conan has no respect for this, if you can call it philosophy.
Lying
lying
on your belly is not his thing.
No.
I mean, he doesn't seek out wizards, but he does take them out when he needs to. So,
Well, I think the idea of just lying on your belly and waiting and basically begging and hoping that your betters won't trot on you.
Yeah, or sticking your head in the sand and just hoping that troubles will pass you by. No, not his style.
Yeah, but not everyone is Conan. So, like, I mean, this guy's just a fisherman. What's he gonna do?
Yeah. Not to mention, he's from basically he's from a society that teaches you early on, you do what the priests say, and you do it quick.
Or you die.
Yeah, or you die. Even if it means dying. If you die, you die if they tell you to die, and if you don't die when they tell you to die, they'll kill you.
Yep.
And if you get to die, it's a privilege.
Exactly.
It's a sacrifice to Set. So I mean,
basically, Stygia is like North Korea with snake magic.
Yep.
Yeah.
And very well put. And the thing is, Thuthomis is apparently, it's interesting because he's positioning himself in opposition to an extent of Thothamon. And what this shows is that Thothamon does not have absolute control over his kingdom.
Yeah.
In a way, his position is the flip side of Conan's coin. Conan, up to this story, does not have complete control over Aquilonia. Well, I shouldn't use the word control of Conan. He's not entirely secure on his throne.
Yeah.
Because Conan does not seek control.
Yeah, and the same goes for Thothamon, who we've seen previously in the first Conan story, Phoenix on the Sword, where he was just a slave on the run in hiding until he got his ring
because
back.
His ring was taken.
Yeah,
yeah.
And at this point, this is like further on. He's now back in control. He is now the
great
head honcho of all the sorcerer priests of Stygia. On the one hand, he's got that ring, and he's got his position back.
I mean, there's always going to be backstabbers, so there's always going to be someone looking to overthrow, just like they did to Conan. So
yeah,
it doesn't necessarily mean that he doesn't have control. It's just there's evil afoot among the evil people.
Yeah, and no, evil people stabbing each other in the back. Who would have thought?
Yeah, no loyalty. Who would have thought?
And Conan decides to wander into this den of snakes, telling his men.
Sorry, I gotta say this just reminds me. Have you guys seen the movie Spawn, the old movie?
Yeah,
it's funny. The Violator comes into the graveyard and he freaks out some Satanists, and he's like, "Why do we always get the Sunday Satanists? No loyalty. They just run off." I don't know. I thought
it's like, why can't we get a better class of minions? Well, it turns out that the kinds of people who are willing to work for you generally aren't the best kind of people.
Yeah, exactly.
Who'd have thought?
And you have I'm going alone into Kemi to find this thief. Thutothmis, but keep this man prisoner, but see that you do him no harm. Crom's devils, stop your yowling. Do you think we can sail into the harbor and take this city by storm? I must go alone. So his men are going, oh, come on, can't we just, sack the place? And you have him, no, okay, listen to Bloodthirst Max. No. So it's good to know that they're more into Sumerian culture than he is. I'm joking there.
Well, they're into their own culture. They have their own particular, raiding and piracy culture that they're really willing to get back into. I mean, you spend enough time, stuck in a slave ship, you're going to be pretty happy to want to cut loose a little bit.
Yep.
And I would think Amra had a lot more boats than just one back in his day.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
Probably.
I mean,
yeah.
But he takes a Ganada knife and the fisherman's clothes and goes to go to shore, telling his men, wait for me until dawn. If I haven't come then, I'll never come. So hasten south to your own homes. As he clambered over the rail, they set up a doleful wail at his going, till he thrust his head back into sight to curse them into silence. So it's like, in How I Met Your Mother, there was a moment where the characters at one point in the show were thinking about, what was the last thing you said to someone? And here, and they kept kind of joking about it. And here Conan has almost that kind of moment where he's like, all right, if I don't come back, go for your own homes. Goes to leave. They start crying. Oh, come on, shut up. And goes. So that's what it kind of reminded me of. It's another comedic moment to my mind.
Yeah, it's definitely a little moment of levity before things get, serious as he ventures straight into Stygia, literally the home of the serpent.
Yeah.
Yep.
And also, just his legend is so big already. The people it must be kind of mind blowing to actually be in the presence of an actual legend who strikes fear at Stygia. Stygia, the one place who nobody thinks nobody can strike fear into because they are so much a fearful country with the sorcery and the snakes. So I mean, it is.
Yeah, but still, it's funny that they start as very loud. This crew is a very loud one. And it seems that annoys Conan, who's like, oh, shut up, guys. We'll go
under
party.
Normal circumstances, he'd be joining in and having a lot of fun. Yeah. But at this point, okay, I have to get here through stealth and guile. I can't really, just go in through the front door like I used to on these kinds of things.
Yeah.
But next time we're going to go party it up and massacre some Stygians. Next time, guys. Just this one time we can't.
Exactly.
And you've got Conan who I like the explanation of how now while he's rowing his way there, we get an explanation of that Kemi was not like the seaports of the Hyborians. And we get a description of what it's like in Kemi and how there's types of every race that are swarming there. And in Hyboria, everyone is basically swarming at every port, into every port. But in Stygia, no. It's mostly blacks and Shemite slaves that are the ones who stand out.
Yeah.
So
and also because and also because Kemi is the only place in Stygia that allows outsiders to come freely to an extent, at least to the port, to trade their goods. Everywhere else, you stand out, you're going down.
Yeah, and there's very few Hyborians there.
Yeah.
So now we're on the 17th chapter.
Indeed.
Yep.
He has slain the sacred son of Set. Right.
And it's noted on, that if Conan is discovered, his fate would be ghastly.
Mm-hmm.
They would slay him merely for being a stranger. If he were recognized as Amra, the Corsair chief who had swept their coasts with steel and flame, an involuntary shudder twitched Conan's broad shoulders.
Yeah, even he's a little bit, freaked out about what would happen there because they are not nice about this stuff.
No. Human foes he did not fear, nor any death by steel or fire. But this was a black land of sorcery and nameless horror. Set, the old serpent, men said, banished long ago from the Hyborian races, yet lurked in the shadows of the cryptic temples, and awful and mysterious were the deeds done in the nighted shrines. Yeah.
It is interesting here that Howard does say earlier here that in build he was not unlike the warrior castes of the Stygians, who were a tall, muscular race, bronzed by the sun. He was nearly as dark as many of them. His black hair, square cut, confined by a copper band, increased the resemblance. The characteristics which set him apart from them were the subtle difference in his walk and his alien features and blue eyes. So I guess blue eyes is pretty uncommon.
Yeah,
which makes sense for that
Stygia.
part of the world. But so long as he doesn't
Yeah,
look
that's
anybody
true.
in the eyes, he should be okay in that regard. Which is also explains how he's able to blend in kind of well, despite the fact that he's definitely not from around there. So it's nice for Howard to bring that up as well.
And in the
Yeah,
prestige
because
novel,
he has traveled. Yeah.
in the prestige novel I've been reading, which gets into a bit of Stygia, blue eyes and green eyes are noted for being very weird in Stygia.
Mm-hmm.
They're not very Hyborian.
Yeah, speaking of not very
no.
Hyborian, when we get the description of, a bit getting into the description of Kemi as he's walking through it here. Yeah, he's entering the long shadowy streets of the main part of the city. There was no such scene as was offered by any Hyborian city. No blaze of lamps or cressets, with gay-clad people laughing and strolling along the pavements, and shops and stalls wide open and displaying their wares. The only lights along the streets were torches flaring smokily at wide intervals. People walking the streets were comparatively few. Numbers decreased with the lateness of the hour. Conan found the scene gloomy.
I wonder why.
Yeah, Conan found the scene gloomy and unreal. The silence of the people, their furtive hate was on each side of the streets. There was a grim massiveness about Stygian architecture that was overpowering and oppressive. It really, he's laying it on. This place is not the friendliest kind of
It
city
feels
to be in.
dystopian.
Yeah,
It feels
I just want to ask the Stygians, where's your loyalty to your god? Shouldn't you be out and about during the night, the whole lot of you? So everyone
And
just
there's
goes to hide in their house.
in a
It's kind
few
of funny.
in a few paragraphs before, it says describes that there's a steering of ancient ambitions in the city, as the ancient desires still loom there in the shadows, in my view. But the description of the architecture and just the way that people are acting is very, very, very dystopian.
Oh yeah,
And-
they are
Yeah.
oppressed as hell. You have the
Yeah.
higher castes of the Stygian nobles and aristocrats who and of course the priests who rule above everything else, who just run roughshod over anybody who tries to get in their way.
I think they're so oppressed they basically brainwashed themselves as well. That's the only way to survive there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
again,
makes-
like I
which
said,
makes-
North Korea.
Then makes it, why don't they just leave? But I guess it's hard to leave as well
Yeah,
Yeah,
if
North
you're
Korea.
born into it.
I couldn't resist that Toronto joke. North Korea or downtown Toronto?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Honestly, I lived in Toronto at one point. It feels
Oppressive.
overpowering. It doesn't feel good.
Mm.
Yeah.
I do like
And
this little
mo-
detail here. Conan knew that most of the people lay on the flat roofs among the palms of artificial gardens under the stars. That is something that was typical, not only even today in Egypt, where the flat roofs of buildings are often, with gardens, and people will sleep up there,
Yeah.
under the night sky. And it's not like you have to worry about rain for the most part. So,
That reminds me of the hanging gardens of Babylon. If you've seen drawings of them, that's like layers like that in this way, flat
Those
roofs
yeah.
in layers, and there's the gardens are like on every roof, and makes them
Well,
kind of like.
To be
hanging on.
honest, the fact that they could just go out on the roof and stare up at the stars like that sounds weirdly beautiful. It must be one of the few human pleasures that these Stygians are allowed to an extent.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, if I figured that the priests would blot out, even they like to get a good view every now and then. Plus, astrology
Well-
kind of crap too.
Well, I'll actually argue they probably would, out of spite, block the sky from their people, even if it means denying it themselves because they just hate their people that much.
Yeah, or view them simply as we said, view them as a means to ends as opposed to ends in and of themselves.
Yep.
Yeah, there's an interesting line here that said there was a grim massiveness about Stygian architecture that was overpowering and oppressive.
Yep.
So basically everything we just
great
about.
black stone walls. I mean, that's definitely going to have an impact on your view of things.
Psyche. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Conan is. I'm just looking at my notes. Conan ends up having a late night date, so to speak, with one of the temple serpents. And
scream in the night.
Yeah. A low scream from a woman on the other side of the street, and somewhat ahead of him, a naked courtesan wearing the tall plumed headdress of her class. So yeah, some naked chick with a big feathered headdress, indicating her social strata, shrinking back against the wall, staring across at something he could not see at sea. Yeah. A cry of the few people in the street halted suddenly as if frozen. At the same instant, Conan was aware of a sinister slithering ahead of him. Then around about the dark corner of the building he was approaching poked a hideous wedge-shaped head, and after flowed coil after coil of rippling, darkly glistening trunk. And that is our very first view of one of the sacred serpents of Stygia. And
Sons of Set.
Yeah.
It almost like the way the way it's described. Oh, sorry. Go.
No, sorry. I was just going to say that there's two different sons of Set. There's this son of Set, and then the ones in God in the Bowl. That son of Set, the one with the face.
Yeah. These ones are more like
Medusa-like.
Sacred serpents versus that thing was some kind of ancient monster creature.
Yeah.
Well,
But they're all sons of Set. They're usually found in the temples. The one with the faces.
Yeah. These serpents, though, the way this serpent is described, kind of makes it seem like the one from that Conan slays in the 1982 movie that so offends Tolkien. It makes that one look like a cupcake, it seems.
It is damn big, that's for sure.
And, well, it's fantasy. I like to imagine it being larger than what you can see on the film. It makes it more impressive when Conan chops its hideous head off.
Exactly.
I don't get the impression Howard much liked snakes.
They do tend to get referenced rather negatively in his stories.
Yeah.
Monsters such as this were kept in the temples of Set, and when they hungered, they were allowed to crawl forth into the streets to take what prey they wished. Their ghastly feasts were considered a sacrifice to the scaly god.
This raises a question. What do the priests have some kind of protection spell or some kind of that they would not be taken by the snakes, basically, when they're in the temple? Well, it does say they sedate them, but I mean otherwise as well. I'm just wondering.
They're covering themselves with snake pheromones.
They might have a connection to the snakes.
Or just cover themselves in snake pee.
Well, what I mean, what I mean is, well, these snakes have to be raised by someone, so maybe they're careful about how they groom them and raise them.
Yeah, makes sense.
And, and that said, I should have forgotten what I was going to say. Oh well.
Yeah. Maybe they can, throw fire here.
Oh, right. I just remembered. One other, not to read too much into it, but I wonder how pious Howard was as a person, because snakes also have the Christian connotation of them as being evil, and Howard really uses that in his Legendarium.
Well, how much of that is from Howard's own beliefs, and how much is that I know this will work for the kind of metaphor I want to use, because obviously he knew about this stuff, even if he wasn't particularly. In religion, the Stygians within Conan's sight fell to their knees, men and women, and passively awaited their fate. One of the great serpent would lap its scaly coils, crush to a red pulp, and swallow as a rat snake swallows a mouse. The others would live. That was the will of the gods. So that gives you a bit of an idea of the religious beliefs of the common people in terms of Stygia. Just how, passively awaiting their fate in this case, when not even the priest selecting a sacrifice for Set, but just the creatures they'd set loose to randomly pick some poor bastard or just, get gobbled up by a giant python.
It's a terror tactic.
It's a good line here. That was the will of the gods, but it was not Conan's will.
Nope.
Python glided towards him. Its attention probably attracted by the fact that he was the only human in sight, still standing erect.
Admittedly, if everybody's kneeling to the ground, you do tend to stand out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ripping his great
Maybe
knife.
the snake's like... Yeah.
Yeah. Conan's hoping it'll pass him by, but it halted before him and reared up horrifically in the flickering torchlight. Its forked tongue flickering in and out, its cold eyes glittering with the ancient cruelty of the serpent folk. Now, the serpent folk are mostly cadaverific at this point, and
Cadaverific?
yet there's well, it's a reference to Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z thing where they're making fun of Yamcha's death, and they invent the word cadaverific to describe his fate, which...
silly.
Yeah, I think I really like that as a joke term.
Yeah.
For characters in Lit, but this thing being compared to the Serpent Folk, I do wonder if there is a connection there.
And I think they're all
It wouldn't
connected.
surprise
The Serpent Men from ancient days. I think they did survive, but in few numbers.
Yeah, and they must have. I wonder if they actually have their I don't read about them in the Hyborian Age. I've not yet found those stories. And I've not seen many of the comics.
It's possible
only
that the
in Marvel stories.
Yeah, and it's
Sorry.
possible that the creatures in the Bran McMorn stories that damn it, what is the name of that one? The one where the Blacks he summons them to attack a Roman tower and they kind of burrow underneath it, take it down, and drag the person off.
Oh right, yeah.
The one.
What I mean is, did the serpent
remember the name?
Do they ever raise these kind of serpents as their pets?
It's never actually mentioned in any of Howard's stories. They basically the Serpent Men only show up in that one story, the Shadow Kingdom with Kull, and then they're just vaguely alluded to in other places. And it's kind of implied that their degenerated, devolved descendants are some of the creatures that we'll encounter later on in that Brian McMorn story.
Yep.
In the sense that they're described as squamous and reptilian looking, but small and stunted and degenerated over millennia.
From what I remember, they come from the same thing. They come from the same thing. The Serpent Men and the Sons of Set. They're like a divergent from the original source.
Which would be Set in this case, theoretically speaking.
Right. It's also the Serpent Men were one of the first primordial races, along with the demons that is mentioned.
And if we were going on to the Lovecraft connections, obviously, since technically the Hyborian Age is part of the Cthulhu mythos, you have also other eldritch races like the Deep Ones and others such primordial pre-human civilizations. And the Serpent Men do get reference at times in Lovecraft stories as well. Clark Ashton Smith also mentions some of them at times in his stories, although those ones aren't technically in the Cthulhu mythos of their own. Although it depends on some people's opinions on those. But you definitely see with that particular people, they were sons of bitches. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
And two, it didn't end well for them because they just keep gradually losing more and more of themselves as due to inbreeding or breeding with other actual reptiles and stuff like that to try and keep their species going, but just they're doomed from the beginning. Humanity is going to supplant them, and there's nothing they can do about it, no matter how hard they try.
Because they were already during Kull's age. They were already very much on the down climb. Or
and then Kull learns of their existence and just goes to town on their shapeshifting asses.
Yeah, because earlier they ruled they showed who they were, but they had to rule from the shadows in
literally
the
Shadow Kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. They had to because of their degeneration of their race.
Yeah.
Downfall.
And then later on, it's just all that's left is a bunch of troglodytes that can be occasionally bargained with, and that's about it.
Yeah, they didn't have an upward like Picts. Picts went like kind of upward,
down.
upward.
And
Yeah.
like the wheels on the box.
Indeed.
Yeah. I like how when Conan does kill the snake, the locals just basically go, "Blasphemer! He slain the sacred son of Set. Slay him!
Blasphemer!"
Yeah. And it's
They
like,
go
But that's what I mean. That they're basically
saved us.
brainwashed
Kill
themselves
him.
to survive. Well, that's what I meant. Like they basically brainwash themselves to save themselves because they have to shout, "Kill him," because otherwise the priests will like, "Why didn't you do anything? Like you have to protect."
and
or
for
do
a lot of
something
them,
like
they
that.
are true believers. These are people who've grown
Oh,
up
yeah,
in
yeah,
this
of course.
society and think this is what's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
but as far as they're concerned, he just did something really bad.
Yeah, that's true.
The cognitive dissonance that they have.
Mhm.
Like they're grateful that they're alive, but then there you go, crazy over him getting rid of the snake and basically saving their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Like you said,
Christians rushed
Yeah.
at him, shrieking hysterically. Yep.
Yep. And Conan curses and takes off because, well, he's not keen on dying like they are.
Yeah.
And
Basically, the whole city begins to hunt him here.
Exactly. They don't know who he is yet, but they know that they've got an infidel somewhere in town, and they are not happy.
Interloper.
Yeah.
Like in a Children of the Corn movie.
With Thulsa Doom grabbing Conan in the movie.
yeah. And then what I find funny about Thulsa Doom is he tries to guilt Conan about killing a snake. And it's like, yeah, no regrets were had. Fuck Conan.
Can I just say that was a really good looking snake in that movie?
Yep.
Yeah, incredibly well done.
Yeah.
Great practical effects.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I miss the practical effects age.
Same.
So he
And
The
starts
realness.
running through the city, avoiding, guards and, people dodging torchbearers and trying to figure out, okay, I gotta get myself to, where I'm supposed to go. And then he finally comes across somebody, a priest. This is someone who can tell him where he needs to go.
Or
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting here is he finds like a similar hidden passageway as he did earlier in Mesantia, where he saw the priest come out of basically a hidden passageway. So once again, he finds himself going through a hidden passageway.
Yeah.
and
It makes
the guy's
sense in a
mad.
certain degree because, these priests have their own things they got to do. They don't want to do it in front of everybody else, not only to avoid, prying eyes, but also because the things they do have a religious significance and therefore are, not for the, common people.
Yeah. And also because they battle themselves, the priests, who's the greater priest, and they struggle
Yeah.
in the power echelon. So they probably want to at all times keep secret their own what they themselves are doing, getting more power and stuff like that.
Religious mysteries are a common trend in ancient religions.
Yeah. Literal mystery cults, as they were called.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
But Conan does the priest in and basically changes clothes with him. So that he's even wearing the guy's mask. So if the Scooby-Doo gang Mystery Inc. showed up, well, if they unmask anyone, it'd be Conan.
Yeah.
Sorry,
And we
I have
finally
to
also
throw-
at this point get our first description of the inside of a temple of Set. So that's pretty cool too.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, this is
Stand
where
of-
in the middle of the great hall stood a black stone altar, massive, somber, without carvings or ornament, and upon it coiled one of the great sacred serpents, its iridescent scales shimmering in the lamplight. It did not move, and Conan remembered stories that the priests kept these creatures drugged part of the time. It's,
Yeah, for their own safety, because I'm pretty sure those snakes don't actually care what they eat.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
Who?
do they have some kind of safety measures, spells or something? I don't know.
They must have. So.
I like to think that they have incense and burners near the serpents that just waft soporific smoke near them, so they're just like keep them.
They're snake
sleepy.
charmers. They're like
Yeah.
play.
Yeah,
Flute.
that'd be another way of doing it.
Except with incense. I like that. Zero. I really like that. Fate had. I like how Conan just thinks, or seems, sort of thinks, Fate had given him a disguise, which, yeah, that's one way of looking at it, as well. And the
It's
priest.
good that they're masked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They mentioned in certain ceremonies the Stygian priests went masked, so also it's another like little clue as to the kinds of customs of these, not only for as a matter of description, world building, but also as a nice little helpful hand.
Yep. And the priests are described as like phantoms. They descended into the great hall and moved past him toward a black arch. The leader carried an ebon staff, which supported a grinning white skull, and Conan knew it was one of the ritualistic processions so inexplicable to a foreigner, which played a strong and often sinister part in the Stygian religion.
Mm-hmm. And you don't
Yeah,
need to know ultimately all that much about it. You just need to know, like, because Conan isn't necessarily that familiar with their particular customs or religious rites, but you just have to know, okay, this is something that's pretty important to them. We don't understand it, but we should probably follow them.
And the fact that he has a skull on his staff is that's rather unpleasant.
Yeah, especially once he realizes that Conan noticed uneasily the skull on the staff glowed phosphorescently. So yeah, not only is it a skull, it's also a glow stick.
Yeah, it lights up like my mug does when it's got hot chocolate in it.
Yeah,
or coffee.
That's always fun.
Does that make me a Stygian?
It makes you a guy with a
Yes,
glow
and
in
you
the
must
dark
be
cup.
kicked.
Don't know what it's
It does, and you must be kicked out of this tree.
Okay, I'll go hang out with Stygian dogs then. I'll go hang out with him since he's a Stygian.
There you go.
I'll go in my corner. See you guys later. But in all seriousness, I love the atmosphere. And this was something that, like, I got a really interesting comment the other day in one of my videos. I forget which one. But where I basically said that Howard and Tolkien were roughly comparable in skill as writers and storytellers. The guy very strongly disagreed and was, but very politely and even a little funnily. But what I ended up telling him was that one thing that Howard kind of surpasses Tolkien in is atmosphere. And here the atmosphere is creepy and unpleasant in a way that is very Howardian.
Yeah, we're basically entering, as we'll see in the next chapter when we get to it, we're entering horror movie territory at this point.
Well, it's like Dante's Inferno. We're descending deeper and deeper into the earth and into hell.
Well, in this case, it's ancient Egyptian hell.
Yeah. And Howard ends up also kind of borrowing from Bram Stoker a little with what's coming up next.
Indeed.
Or
maybe also, but I don't know if the Boris Karloff movie, The Mummy, had come out around this time period when
I'll look it
Howard
up.
Written this. Let's see.
King Kong had.
King Kong, yeah, but there are no.
No, there weren't. There was a movie I thought of.
This book came out around 1936 or 37, I believe.
And the original
no,
Mummy...
Howard died at 36.
Okay, so then it came out in 1935. I must have made a mistake there.
Of course, naturally, the Brendan Fraser one is the one that first comes up when I search for it.
1932. So Howard did see this movie.
Or at least could have seen it at the very least.
Or could have. He could have seen it. And
I definitely think he probably... I think in his letters he does say he went to the movies. So...
It makes sense. It's the kind of thing I think he would have enjoyed. Incidentally...
It's
The Mummy?
The 1932 one, yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
That's pretty good.
I've seen a good chunk of it, but not all
It involves
of it.
far less actual mummy than you might think.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
yeah.
I mean, it's got some really good Boris Karloff. If you ever wanted to see him, do more than just like fire from the Frankenstein, and actually have him have a
Right.
character with some actual depth to it. Yeah, this is a pretty good one.
The Yeah, and the thing with, although what I've seen of that movie I really liked, although I still prefer the 1999 one.
I mean,
Um,
come on, it's one of the best movies made.
mm.
Which
But
one?
Boris Karloff is
The
really
Mummy with
good.
Brendan Fraser, the first one, 1999.
One of the best movies made.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
I mean, it's a good movie, but one of the best ones.
Yeah.
Can you think of
That's
anything
Stephen
wrong
Sondheim.
with that movie? Think about it.
Name one thing.
It ends,
Exactly. Well,
and
yeah,
its
that's the
sequels
problem.
weren't as good as the first one.
Well, actually, I'm gonna say number 2 was just as good as number 1.
It wasn't as the script wasn't as not as nearly as tight as the first one, and
But it just it does its job of continuing the adventure and of
The Rock
bringing-
looked so well in his CGI Scorpion.
Okay, the CGI is crap with the Scorpion, but it's The Rock. He always looks like crap. And come on,
Come on.
it's almost as good. There are things in the second one I find that I like better, and there are things I like less. And I just find it connects with the first one really, really, really well, in a way that very few sequels do. And I don't know. I really.
I mean, the Mummy movie is great, but I've never heard someone say it's one of the best movies ever.
okay,
Yes,
it may not win any Oscars, but then again, what movies do?
Yeah.
The genre of adventure
Yeah.
movies, adventure fantasy movies.
It is.
It's hard to beat.
It is true. It's one of the last ones that really was able to replicate Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
That adventure, like try to think of a movie similar in the vein of The Mummy from the last 20 years. Like I can't think of any movie that
hard to
comes
think of any.
close. Yeah, that's
know
what I
what?
mean. Like it's like what happened to that genre? Like that's a great genre to make
In
movies.
hindsight, do you think maybe Stephen Sommers would have been the perfect director for a Conan movie?
Mummy, Stephen Sommers, sure. Van Helsing, Stephen Sommers, hell no.
The problem with Stephen Sommers is he doesn't really understand deeper characterizations. Like have you guys seen the what's the movie he did after Van Helsing?
Yeah,
Van
that's
Helsing.
I love. but-
It's like it's really like wobbling over the finish line. It's,
It's like a 5-year-old playing with action figures, and very little much else in that one.
Yeah,
I
I
really
mean
love-
there's some cool stuff in this, I guess, looking, but then it's like I don't know, like
It does
I don't
not
know.
hold up.
Well, I
Yeah.
really love it. Oh shoot, having problems. 1 sec.
Well,
I'll
yeah,
just-
you like Van Helsing. Of course, you're having problems.
yeah. Yes, it is kind of. But
Oh,
Oh.
Van Helsing. I saw that movie in the theaters.
Oh, you
Well,
poor man.
I'm still going to defend Van
Oh,
Helsing.
the beginning where he meets Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, that Jekyll and Hyde must be the worst depiction of a Jekyll Hyde ever put
True.
on.
The one in
screen.
the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was just the Hulk, and that one was a lot better.
Like
That's
I
a movie
said,
I haven't seen either.
I love that movie, no matter its flaws.
Mm. It is.
But- But
I did
that's-
like the opening black and white. That's pretty well done.
Oh, I love that part. I love the way the movie kind
I
of goes.
haven't
with
seen it in ages.
I love that movie. I'm a big
Just
Stephen Sommers.
remember,
So
I just remember that it ends with them in the sky, looking like Mufasa
Oh
down.
God, yeah. Just weird Kate
Yeah.
Beckinsale shit. Thanks.
Mummy and Mummy 2 were better.
Well, yeah. Hugh Jackman.
Then there's the Scorpion King movies as well.
Yeah. That first
Oh,
one
I
was
forgot
actually
about
holds,
it.
the first Scorpion King movie holds up.
They're kind of like sword and sorcery movies, those.
Oh yeah,
The
it's got Kelly Hu emerging naked from a pool of water. That's always good.
Yeah, fair.
There
And we
isn't a lot of sword and sorcery movies anymore. I think those are kind of the last ones, you would say, maybe.
yeah. Well,
Oh,
Red Sonja is coming out soon, so that'll basically hopefully start up
yeah,
that
hopefully.
Indeed.
back up.
Today, nowadays, movie making is like it's like a lost art.
And according to Midnight's Edge, there's a Conan movie that might come out down the road. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
it all
there's
depends
a-
on Malmberg and what he's probably willing to let some director do. Hopefully, it'll turn
Yeah.
out okay.
yeah,
Yeah, there's quite a strong like grip on on the whole thing. Who gets to make
I-
it?
I'll
Well,
actually
all the more
compliment.
power.
Yeah, I'll just compliment Malmberg because he's doing a lot. Like you got the Conan website, which was a blast. I did a video on that.
Oh
You've
yeah, I
got
should do a video on that.
he's commissioned really good writers
Mhm.
for comics and books. I just think that he's the first guy who's handling the Conan brand in quite
But he
some
did
time.
deny. But he did deny Arnold Schwarzenegger the third movie.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. At this point.
No, but early on. No. Early on. Early on.
Okay.
During 2010.
Yeah,
age
I would
times.
probably deny Schwarzenegger at that point. The only reason I'd
No.
say that, now just hear me out, is that I find that Schwarzenegger's been on a steady decline in recent years.
Well,
since
yeah,
22.
no. But we're talking about before 2010 and before that.
Okay, then never mind.
I just,
I stand
I mean,
corrected.
I would have taken that instead of the Jason Momoa movie.
Oh yeah.
I would have
I'm
taken
just
Jason
saying.
Momoa in a better movie version of that.
I completely forgot about Momoa.
Mm.
Yeah, okay, I stand corrected.
Sorry.
Schwarzenegger before like 2012 thereabouts.
I
Sure.
just would have wanted. It's not so much about Schwarzenegger. I just wanted John Milius with great
Oh, yeah.
script and great
Okay.
music and.
You give John Milius carte blanche to do what he wants with Conan, you'll probably almost, no matter what, have a great film.
Yeah.
Well, give John Milius carte blanche to do anything, you're going to get a great film because he's a great he's a great film director. Sorry about that.
Blessings.
Thank you.
But the other thing with Malmberg that I like is that I think that he's handling these properties with the same attention and care that one could
Well,
could
not
see.
the Momoa movie.
Yeah, he's had his hiccup. I mean, outside that, he's learned his lesson and he's handling it since then with
Hopefully, yeah.
as much care from what I could see and attention as what Christopher Tolkien attended to Tolkien's legacy.
Well, I think we
Mm.
just cross our fingers and hope that continues.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll get a Cull something. Cull
Mhm.
TV series, Cull a movie, something Cull animation. Cull animation could be really cool.
In 2024,
that-
we're going to see a return to the Savage Sword of Conan black and white magazine format, so that should be interesting.
Yeah. No, there's great stuff going. So,
A Shadow
yeah, hats
Kingdom.
off to them.
How's about a Shadow Kingdom animated series or movie? Just
Mm.
that one story in a miniseries format or something animated, with Brule and Cull just slaughtering serpent men.
Well, I
As
do
it-
like animation. It's really cool. It's just live action has always been my.
Mm.
It depends, of course. Manga is a different thing. Like anime, that's
I'm not big
that's
on
more. That's more. What I mean, live action is not doesn't work with that stuff in most of the sense. So their animation is king.
can work very well
but-
for this kind of thing.
But for
Especially if you're
Conan,
especially if you have somebody like Conan who's a very specific physical specimen, and you can't necessarily find an actor who has the kind of necessary range and gravitas you need for that role, who's also
yeah, that's
in
true.
that same kind of shape. But if you can get somebody who can do the voice and get the character down pat, if you do it via an animated series
Yeah,
or an animated
It's
film,
true.
you can get the physicality and have everything. Plus, added bonus, You don't have to worry about weird CG that stands out and looks fake because everything looks as if though it's part of the same world because it's all drawn the same.
Yep,
That's true.
absolutely. That's why.
That's one of the
And
It's
advantages.
just
If you
it's
like,
just the
get him
live
to
action with a really great director would just, I don't know, it would hit closer to me.
Okay.
But anyway.
That's fair.
I prefer animation at this point, more due to the fact that I actually have studied a bit of it. So I don't know. I really like art and animation.
But I'll take an animation.
Yeah.
I'm not against it in any way.
Especially if it's like that animation from that you showed me a while back, months ago, the one with Conan that the guy
Oh,
did.
right. Yeah.
If it's like that, I would watch that.
Have you guys seen Castlevania?
Yeah,
The
I've
animation?
seen. I haven't exactly enjoyed the latest couple of seasons, but I was watched from the first one, and yeah, it was pretty good.
I think
Animation-wise, it looks great.
the battle sequences looks fantastic in the Castlevania series. If they could do that, that would be really cool looking.
I would just have to make sure that they get the script on point to make it actually feel properly. Howardian versus
modern. Yeah.
Like,
Throwing
I don't want them
F-words
dropping
all over.
F-bombs every two sentences. Castlevania.
Yeah,
Like,
that
okay.
was that. I gotta say that was cringe in the
So
in the show.
the original stuff was written by Warren Ellis. The guy has issues with making people who work for the church look like complete assholes, and B, inserting his favorite words every couple of sentences.
Yeah, it just gets old so fast. Like
I don't
it's
know.
like a 13-year-old that just found their favorite word. It's like oh.
It works, a little bit, but you don't want to overdo it, and especially not for sword and sorcery. I find because
no.
Yeah, especially for this kind of thing,
no.
you want people swearing by Crom's devils and
Yeah, exactly.
raise your steel, dog, as opposed to fuck you, you fucking fuck. It just doesn't have the same gravitas,
Yeah, exactly.
That's why
That's
Howard's
one of the
fantasy
fantasy stuff. Yeah.
Howard actually can do great dialogue that doesn't require cussing like that. And even then, Crom's devils or Crom's teeth.
Yeah.
Mishra's beer.
Mishra's balls.
Yeah.
Yep.
These
That's
are
exactly
bad.
because it inserts you into that world.
Exactly.
Why would they swear like some gangster from nowadays?
Downtown LA.
Yeah, exactly. Like
You want that cadence to feel like it's one of the things I like about. They actually have the right kind of tone to them.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
And what's more is, I was just gonna say, like, if you want Arnold to voice in animation, that's something you can do.
No. That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
he's too old.
Cull, an animated series or movie with Cull would be him and Cull.
Yeah, or anyone like a full animated series with Solomon Kane done.
Yeah, animated series like
Solomon
animated
Kane.
series would be
Hold
awesome.
up, Solomon Kane, a series done in the style of the old Batman the animated series.
But would it have to be like in that particular style, or like more in the vein of like more their own style?
Yeah,
the art style
obviously would look
of Under the Red Hood.
Yeah, it was something like that. But I would definitely like that kind of old school, like how they made Gotham City look like this gothic, nightmare city in that cartoon.
Right.
Just get that same kind of
tone,
that that tone of
but less of the cartoonish. But
yeah,
less
maybe less
of the cartoonish,
but having that kind of feel to it. But in that Elizabethan era, Solomon Kane, be a Puritan kind of thing, that would be pretty damn cool.
Sure. I would definitely take a series, not an animated movie. I think a series would be so much better.
Well, yeah, with Kane, there's enough stories, and he travels the world, so you'd have to go for some kind of series in order to do that properly.
Yeah, you would start with the what's the first the one with skulls in the moon, I think. Or
no, Red
when
Shadows.
Red Shadows.
Oh yeah, Red Shadows. But I just like the beginning of when he's walking on the moors and that the moon is shining brightly, and then
I don't think that's Spell the
here's
Moon. I forget the exact name of that one, but yeah, he wrestles a ghost in that one. That's pretty cool.
yeah.
And
That's a
and the last
good, great end, like beginning.
Yeah,
like a great
or the
beginning.
Right Hand of Doom, which is another great story.
Yeah.
and to return to Hour of the Dragon and Conan rather than Solomon Kane.
Yeah.
I love Kane though. I've been getting into him on my horror channel
Mm-hmm.
because I have a million of them. Like World of Conan always teases me. But
You have
the
you have
last
so many channels you can build a boat.
But the last thing that's said in this chapter is Thutothmis, and as Conan, decides to.
So are they kind of rallying around Thuthomes in Kemi and basically giving him the reign, or now because he has found the heart of Ahriman, they see like, oh man, this guy is gonna like rise up and be the like king of the sorcerers, taking away Thothomon's power.
Well,
We
that's a
get better
question
aligned.
we'll see answered in the next couple of chapters, won't we?
Yeah, align with him.
Yeah.
As we've got, okay, calm down, puppy. It's okay. He always cries when he thinks I'm paying attention to someone else more than him. He's a needy baby. So yeah, we're going to be tackling, I believe, chapters 18 and 19 next time.
18 and 19. I Am the Woman Who Never Died, followed by In the Hall of the Dead.
Yeah, I believe that's the one with, because I read a little ahead, that's the one with the awesome sword versus ninjas. Just to get spoilers. I love that fight.
So just let's take closing thoughts of the last three chapters. What was your favorite chapter? Why was it your favorite chapter?
I like the one of the Black Corsairs. Conan,
That's definitely a standout.
Yeah,
The first one.
Yeah.
15. The Return of the Corsair.
I just love how bloodthirsty the Corsairs are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and seeing Conan
that's a great
take
chapter.
charge of the situation after being smacked on the head and left for as a captured potentially as a captured slave. See him so easily take control of things. Reminds you all of just who you're dealing with, and you're even at his lowest point, he can still come back and wreck shit. And inspire others to wreck shit as well.
Yeah, I kind of agree that that's probably the best one. But I do have to say the last one has great, like one of you said, the atmosphere, the writing, and the information we get about Set and the religion.
I'd say
the religion.
Chapter 15 definitely has the high point in terms of like action and excitement, and chapter 17 really has the dread kind of seeping in.
That's
really well.
It's building up towards Akivasha and the Snake Priest.
Yeah, it's setting the tone for the next couple of chapters to really show, okay, you're no longer in Hyboria anymore. Here there be serpents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're in a land of Snake Pope, not Kansas.
Snake Pope. Yeah.
We have to throw a reference to Grimdark. Because we've thrown references to Stygian Dogs and Michael K. Vaughan. We might as well reference Grimdark.
Of course.
We have a quota we have to hit.
Oh, that's very important.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that we've reached pretty much, I think, almost past the midpoint here. We've reached almost
it's
a crescendo here of where we're at in terms of where we are into the story.
Yeah, there isn't much chapters left.
Yeah, not that many chapters left, and things are really coming to a head. We are approaching the point where the Heart of Ahriman remakes an appearance, and then we're going to be heading straight back to Aquilonia to deal with Zaltotan. But in the meantime, we still have a couple of more chapters left in Stygia, and they are really, really good ones coming up.
There's like 40 pages left
and
when I'm looking here.
And the chapters in Stygia, the two remaining, are really, really fitting for the season we're in.
Oh
Halloween.
yeah, this is definitely some October fodder right now.
There's
Yeah,
by the way, the scepter.
Ooh.
Well, I think that's
I
more
love
the
it.
mask actually, because it's
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
got
the
yeah.
mask.
the
Oh, right.
yeah,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
the
yeah.
mask because it's got the
No, I
feathers
love
it's
on
the
it
ma-
and the half human, half bestial appearance.
Oh,
Yep.
right. Yeah, you're right.
Okay, so just noticed there's 22 chapters in total, I think, to this book.
Mm-hmm.
So we're looking at only really like. Okay, Jet, it's okay.
One or
It's
two
okay.
more of these before we move on to another story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Before we reach
But-
the climax, the ultimate conclusion of the Hour of the Dragon.
Yep.
Exactly.
And we've got one of the ultimate modern mythological heroes versus honestly one of the biggest, baddest dark lords of all times.
Yeah.
And oh man,
Now available on
But-
pay-per-view.
Oh man, that when we talk, it's so cool to talk about the possibilities. Like we were just talking about Cull and Solomon Kane and Conan. Like it's a wonder it has taken so long for someone to even get a idea to grasp with these titles and just try to make something. Like I don't understand. There's so much imagination in this world, especially Cull's world in that sense that it's very unexplored. You know that there's like 7 kingdoms. You know basically nothing of them.
Yeah, I mean it's very unexplored
And-
primarily because Howard didn't write that much about it.
Exactly, but that's what I mean. It's like really fertile for like whatever you want to explore in that age, for example. But also obviously the Hyborian age as well, and Solomon Kane. So
Like-
there's so much cool stuff. Like I can imagine games. Like you can make great games out of this. You can make great animation, like we were talking about. Great movies,
heck,
TV series.
if this heroic signatures wanted to, they could create even more characters and explore these other lands from different point of views.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
with,
exactly.
other characters and whatnot.
Yeah,
Like
which
fantasy books.
might be even better than trying to cram everything with Conan, creating other
Yeah.
characters. Even just taking some of the surviving characters from other stories and seeing where they go from there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what.
that's a good point.
Like, and it's not just with the Hyborian Age; they could do that with the Thurian Age. Like, heck,
Yeah.
you've got Valerius from the "Which Shall Be Born" story. You could explore an urban setting with him, just as you could explore, I don't know, adventures with Valyria. For a portion of the world, you've got stuff you can do in Ophir and Koth and whatnot with different characters. Heck, I think in the Queen Sonia run, isn't there another Sumerian who runs around? You could take him and do adventures with him. There's Red Sonia, of course,
Yeah,
and there's like
chainmail or
on-
regular version from the historical story of the Shadow of the Vulture.
Yeah, there's also her. At this point, what I wonder is how come there's not a Howard streaming service with all Howard stories and productions and whatnot.
Well, if ever I get Fred Malmberg on the show, I'll be sure to ask him.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe there's not that many fans to get it. They have to grow it, so
Yeah.
we get all the non-fans to
Yeah,
get on
well,
board.
with a little luck
With-
with all the stuff that they're putting out right now, they might actually be able to get a couple of extra eyes on the stuff and some more appreciation for
Yeah,
Texas's own particular bard.
Yeah.
I mean, making a Solomon Kane, like who doesn't like a swashbuckling movie?
Yeah,
Yeah, and I-
series, if you make it,
and I-
a good one.
swashbuckling with demons and undead pirates.
and I-
Exactly.
Yeah, and I ended up actually speaking with a few Texan nationalists and whatnot. And what's interesting is that most of them apparently are big Howard fanboys and fangirls.
It doesn't surprise me.
Okay, it's okay, puppy. Just calm down, stop crying.
I think Puppy is calling you away there.
Yeah, he definitely is.
Well, I think we've
He-
discussed everything we had to say about these particular chapters. I'd say we
Oh,
leave
They were
the rest
fantastic.
Yeah, indeed, they were very, really good. I say we leave in further discussion for the next episode of this we do. I'll let one of you guys do the host for that one. I think it's your turn, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. Over at the first one will be hosting on the new Conan channel, I think. Brothers Hyborian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Purely Hyborian and Hurrian.
I actually also just want to say I kind of like that they were shorter, these chapters. They kind of flowed really well. Like you got like
they
one
went
punch, two punch,
one
three
into
punch.
the other very quickly.
Yeah, but they just had a very good flow and went to the next one. I don't know. It's just
Yeah, they did.
Mm-hmm.
I like how
didn't
they
bog
did,
down.
like kind of well, it just connects to each other. It flows so well.
Yeah.
But that's Howard.
Yeah.
The man knew what he was doing.
Yep. And
Well, I mean, making a living, you got to pull all the punches for every last word. Yeah.
so
Guess that's all for us.
Will be all for us for tonight.
and
Yeah.
Thanks
don't
everybody
forget
for
to-
jumping in. Thank you especially Gilles Villeneuve for helping with the technical issues we were running into.
Oh yeah. Praise be to Dan. And don't forget to smash that like under this video because we really
Do the
wanna...
social things. Do all the social things that people who do things for a living actually recommend you do. There you go.
Share, smash the like, smash
Subscribe to everyone. Yeah.
Sub to the
let's
like
get-
button, smash the follows, and crush your
And
enemies
like I'm
see
being
them before you hear the lamentations of their women.
Yeah, and let's get
Hear the lamentation of the subscribe buttons. But
Yeah.
anyway,
I mean, the
Go to
subscribe
World of
buttons must be
Conan.
lamenting quite a bit after it gets smashed so often.
Don't forget World of Conan and Brothers Hyborian to also hear the lamentation of those subscribers.
and also,
Indeed, subscribe to
also-
these two fine gentlemen.
yeah. Also, if you guys just more comments, that would be great.
Yeah,
like-
comment.
like
Indeed,
Like,
comment. And if you do not comment,
your-
then to hell with you.
give your ideas and stuff like that. What do you?
What did you
thought
all
about the
think? All the
chapters?
people watching this, what did you think of these chapters in Howard the Dragon in total so far?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Let's talk about it.
Indeed. And let's talk about it also
Next
next
time.
time.
Yes.
Next time
Here's
with
to all you
chapters
barbarians.
18 and 19. And I will see you all next time as well on our channel. This has been Zero Sum, Brothers Krynn, or Brothers Hyborian, as it were, and World of Conan, of course. Until next time, bye-bye.
Hails to you all, you.